Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be making a Papercut Lightbox of Petra and Jordan. So let's just get right into it. I was out of ideas of what to make this week and I wasn't really feeling anything, so I found some inspiration in ancient history. I looked up inspiration and I found one of the 7 wonders of the world, Petra Jordan. I think this is an absolutely beautiful place and I love this building and I thought I could do something really cool with this. So let's just get right into it. I got 7 sheets of cardstock 8.5 by 11 and drew a 1/2 inch border around them. These will be my layers. As for my sketch, it's really bad, but I don't really need much because I have references of the actual building and I wanted a little camel with a rider in the foreground so I can find references for that too. If you enjoy my videos and you like my work, I just wanted to let you know that I have a Patreon set up. There's nothing on there right now, but I am going to be putting up some templates of my work so you can make them for yourself. Probably next video I will have some up already. So if you want to check that out, consider following me on Patreon, and thank you for the support. Now back to the video. So I started off immediately on the building. Since this is an actual place, I could do a lot of research and really figure out the history of this place and get a lot of good references for how it looks. So I started off with a few layers. I decided to split the building into 3 layers. First one with all the pillars and the little statues. The second one will be kind of in between the two. And then the third one will be the back wall with the door and a few more statues at the top. I copied out the statues and where all the pillars and little lines will go that decorate the front of this building. I drew them out, and then for details I kind of jumped around a bit. I doubled up some cardstock in some places to make it thicker and darker to add detail, like on the bottom. On the door in the back I created this pillar outline. Every pillar in the front had a dark base and top. Then I added some dark cardstock stripes all along the front to add detail and depth to this design. I also cut the lines into the building to create detail. And I think it turned out pretty well. There are statues around the front of this building, and it was hard to make them out because some of them are half destroyed. Some of them depict different gods from different cultures. This building is an interesting combination of Greek, Egyptian, and Nabatean art, so that was really interesting. But yeah, I kept going and I added all of the details. And even though this is a real historical place, my sister came up with a magical story for it. So while I'm working, here it is. The tall, awkward shape of 2 camels became visible in the light of the blazing sun. The rider swayed in his seat as they picked their way through the narrow gorge called the Sick. The robed figure huddled on its back reached out a curious hand to touch the canyon walls. The sandstone that the rainy floods had carved the Sick from was rough and grainy under the surface of his probing fingers. The man had been riding for a good chunk of time when the Sick suddenly ended and the towering shadows of Al-Kazneh loomed up ahead. The man led his camels up to the mouth of Al-Kazneh before dismounting. The building was breathtakingly beautiful. However, the lateness of the hour and the knowledge of the sneaky wrong he was about to do made the structure creepily unwelcoming. The Greek-inspired pillars cast eerie shadows upon the sand at his feet. He gazed over the building, searching. In the dark shadows cast by the hot sun, he could see in the center, in the way back, a grand opening leading inside the building. However, that's not what he was looking for. His eyes wandered over the surface of the building, searching. The structure was decorated with statues here and there. 2 twin gods, Castor and Pollux, seemed to stare at him as he approached. The other carvings were a mixture of Greek, Egyptian, and Nabatean art. This mishmash of styles was a testament to the great trading empire that the Nabateans founded. Some of the foreign images beside Castor and Pollux that were represented were the Egyptian gods Isis. There were some local images mixed in with the borrowed motifs. Carved into a horizontal beam between the 2 stories of the building, a pair of lions sat. These majestic creatures were representative of Al-Uzza, the most important goddess that the people of this amazing city ever worshipped. As beautiful as the building was, the man had journeyed out to the abandoned city of Petra for a specific reason, and it wasn't to admire the architecture. Realizing that he needed to focus, his eyes continued to roam up the building until he spotted it. In the very top center, he could see a sculpted urn in the middle of the building. That's what he was looking for. He walked to one of his camels and grabbed some kind of bundle wrapped up in a piece of animal hide. The man dragged the bundle in front of the building and unwrapped the hide to reveal a set of iron picks and a long coil of rope. He threw the rope up into the air, causing it to loop around one of the towers on the very top of the structure. He tested its hold with his passive weight, and when it did not give, tucking the picks in his belt, he started to climb hand over hand. When he had climbed to the top of Al-Khazneh, he pulled the picks out of his belt and started to pick away at the outside of the stone urn on the top of the middle tower. According to legend, an Egyptian pharaoh hid a copious amount of treasure inside. This tantalizing legend had spread like wildfire. Before long, robbers from all kinds of distant lands would come to break into the urn and tackle the treasure for themselves. As he chiseled away, he imagined all the things that could be in here: gold, jewels, treasure. And he chiseled faster, thinking of his wealth. Unfortunately, there must have been some unaccounted for danger out here, leaking amongst the ruins of this crumbling city, or somewhere out in the vast sandy seas of the Jordan desert. With a stretching, scraping sound, the hair on the back of the man's neck stuck up as his pick broke through the outside of the urn. As soon as the modest point of his pick broke through the hard, gritty sandstone, a low hissing like that of the voice of a snake built deep inside the depth of Al-Khazneh. It took about a minute for it to gather strength and burst from the structure and echo through the air outside. Suddenly, the now intolerable sound was accompanied with a flurry of movement. A gigantic tunnel of wind that would have been strong enough to move 50 ships poured out of the door of Al-Khazneh. Panic pounded in the man's chest, making him dizzy. He cried out, trying to grasp at the building, but he could feel his hands and feet start to lose traction on the rope as the wind blew him about. Ultimately, he lost the battle with the wind, and after one extraordinarily big gust slammed into him, he was sent tumbling, screaming to the earth. With enough force to knock the breath out of him, the man landed painfully on his back in front of the doors of the building. He just managed to collect himself and started to rise when something knocked him flat on his back. It was not heavy, just strong. It blasted through from the dark recesses behind the door and took shape. It possessed the form of a man with translucent skin and no lower body. Instead of legs or feet, his entire lower half was one cone of wispy smoke, so when he moved, he did not walk but glided over the ground. His face was not bare, it was heavily adorned with a long, thick beard. In an effort to match his beard, he had kept his hair long. It swept over his shoulder in a thick waterfall. As he glided out of the doorway of Al-Khazneh, he looked at the man. As their eyes met, an untraceable wave of terror washed over the man, and he wanted nothing more than to spring up from the ground and run away. Unfortunately, the power of the ghost, he was not able to do more than struggle pathetically on the ground. The spirit raised his arms and muttered some words under its breath. The man was scared. The man struggled and tried to crawl away. His camels, which had found refuge in the shade of the building, started to become restless. To his greatest fear, he was not safe, and as the ghost lowered his arms, the sand under his feet was turning soft and mushy, and in another second, he slipped into the sand. He scrambled, trying to pull himself out, but the sand around him fell, funneling him down into the depth of the earth. So yeah, that was the story that my sister came up with. I really like it. She didn't like it that much, but I thought it was really good. So show her some love in the comments. But now back to the project. After I finished the building, I moved on to the other layers. I kept things really simple. I made sure that you could see the little canyon going into the background with the sun in the sky. And then for the foreground, I just wanted the 2 camels from the story and the character. So I drew out 2 camels and a guy. I tried to copy some accurate historical clothing, but I don't know if I really found good references, so I did my best. I'll be honest, I was kind of not feeling this project, like I said earlier, so I didn't add any shading onto this foreground. I just cut lines into it wherever I wanted to. So it's a little bit lacking, I think, but I think it still looks good in the end. Then I cut out all of these layers. These are pretty blank. I decided to keep it from being too blank. I poked some holes with a little pin into the sand to add a little sparkly magical touch. I always like to do this for things, and I think it looks good. For the sky, I used a piece of sketching paper and I cut a hole in it for the sun, and I covered that hole with tracing paper. And with that being said, all these layers are cut, so now I can assemble it. So I cut that out of this 1/2 inch thick foam board and I layer up the pieces. And here is the finished product. I'll be honest, I don't really love it that much. I think it looks fine, but it's definitely not my best work and it's not my favorite either. But it was fun to do all the research, and I think my sister made a great story for it. I chose obviously a yellow orangish light. Let me know what you guys thought down below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and I will see you next time. Bye!